They ruled the stars in arrogance until humanity arrived in fire. The starship Rising Dawn cut through the black void of space like a silver needle threading through dark fabric. Inside the bridge, Captain Li Taeyang stood with his hands clasped, behind his back watching the main view screen display an endless field of stars. His reflection in the glass showed a man in his 40s with tired eyes that had seen too many battles back during the colony wars on Mars. "Captain, we're detecting unusual energy readings ahead," said Commander Yoon Daeho from the tactical station. His fingers danced across the holographic controls, pulling up data streams that painted the air in blue light. Taeyang moved closer to examine the readings. "What kind of energy?" "Unknown signature. Nothing in our database matches it. It's powerful, though maybe some kind of advanced reactor or weapon system." Daeho looked up at his captain with concern written across his young face. Dr. Park Ji-won entered the bridge carrying a data tablet. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. As the ship's chief scientist and diplomat, she had spent years studying every scrap of information humanity had gathered about potential alien life. "Captain, I recommend caution. If this is what I think it is, we may be looking at our first contact with an advanced alien civilization." Taeyang nodded slowly. The Rising Dawn carried 3,000 souls, families of colonists hoping to find new worlds, scientists eager to explore, and a significant number of military personnel disguised as civilians. Earth's United Fleet had sent them out here knowing they might encounter other species. The question was whether those species would be friendly. "Slow to half speed. Keep scanning." "Ambassador Choi, please report to the bridge," Taeyang ordered. Ambassador Choi Nari arrived within minutes. She was dressed in the formal blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had negotiated peace treaties between Earth's various factions and was considered humanity's best hope for peaceful first contact. "Ambassador, we may have company soon," Taeyang explained the situation. Before Choi could respond, the view screen exploded with light. 7 massive ships materialized around the Rising Dawn, each one 3 times larger than any vessel humanity had ever built. They were beautiful in a terrible way, all smooth curves and glowing energy fields that pulsed like living heartbeats. "Captain, we're being hailed," the communications officer announced, her voice shaking slightly. "Put it through." The view screen changed to show a being that looked almost humanoid but was clearly not human. Its skin was pale blue and seemed to shimmer like water. 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its face regarded them with an expression that Taeyang could only read as contempt. When it spoke, the translation software kicked in, turning alien sounds into perfect English. "Unclassified vessel. You have entered Velkari Imperial space without authorization. I am High Executor Velmuth, and I speak with the authority of the 7 ruling species of this galaxy." The alien's voice was smooth, but carried an edge of barely concealed anger. "Identify yourselves immediately." Ambassador Choi stepped forward, her diplomatic training taking over. "Greetings, High Executor. I am Ambassador Choi Nari of Earth, representing humanity. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars. We had no knowledge of your territorial claims and apologize for any intrusion." Velmuth's 4 eyes narrowed. "Earth? Humanity? These designations are not in our registry. This is impossible. Our surveys of this region indicated only primitive life forms incapable of space travel for at least another 500 cycles. We developed faster than expected," Choi said carefully. "We would be honored to establish diplomatic relations with your Imperium." A sound came from Velmuth that the translator interpreted as laughter, but it held no warmth. "You misunderstand your situation, creature. The galaxy operates under Velkari law. All species are classified according to their technological and cultural development. Advanced species like the Velkari rule. Lesser species serve. It is the natural order, maintained for 10,000 years. Taeyang felt ice form in his stomach. He had feared this scenario. Humanity had debated for decades what they would do if they met aliens who saw them as inferiors. "We seek partnership, not subjugation," Choi said, her voice remaining calm despite the threat. "Partnership?" Velmuth's expression twisted into something ugly. You are a species that only just achieved interstellar flight. By what arrogance do you claim equality with your betters? No, you will submit to Velkari authority. You will surrender all your technology for evaluation. Your species will be classified, likely as a worker caste. This is not negotiable. This is mercy. The alternative is extermination. The bridge fell silent. Taeyang could feel the eyes of his crew on him, waiting for orders. He glanced at Dr. Park, who gave him the slightest shake of her head, a warning. "We need time to discuss this with our government," Choi said. "Surely you can grant us that basic courtesy?" Velmuth appeared to consider this. "Very well. You have one planetary rotation of your homeworld, 24 of your hours. If you do not signal your complete surrender by then, we will disable your vessel and take what we want by force. All aboard will be processed as property of the Imperium. Do not test our patience. We have destroyed species for less than this intrusion." The screen went dark. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Taeyang turned to his senior staff. "Conference room now. Daeho, maintain yellow alert, but don't do anything that looks aggressive." In the private conference room, Taeyang, Choi, Park, Daeho, and the ship's chief engineer gathered around a table. The engineer, a nervous man named Huang Dongwu, pulled up a holographic display of the Velkari ships. "They're jamming our long-range communications," Huang reported. "But they don't know about the quantum comm array hidden in Section 7. It's experimental, but it should work." "Can we fight them?" Daeho asked bluntly. 7-to-1 odds with superior technology? "No," Taeyang said. "But this was always a possibility. Earth Command prepared for this scenario." Ambassador Choi looked troubled. "Captain, if we resist, we could doom our entire species. Those ships could reach Earth. If we surrender, we doom our species anyway," Taeyang countered. "You heard him. They see us as animals to be classified and controlled. History teaches us what happens to the enslaved. They either die slowly or die fighting. I'd rather we choose how we die." Dr. Park spoke up. "The Velkari are overconfident. They truly believe they're superior. That's a weakness we can exploit." Taeyang nodded. "Earth Command gave me sealed orders for this exact situation. Code Prometheus. We send a warning home and we become the bait. We make the Velkari think they have us trapped while Earth prepares for war. 3,000 people on this ship," Choi whispered. "Many are civilians. Children. Which is why we have to buy Earth time," Taeyang said. "The Velkari think we're helpless primitives. They have no idea what humans can do when we're cornered. Let them learn the hard way." He turned to Huang. "Send the quantum burst to Earth Command. Authorization code Prometheus 1. Message is simple. First contact hostile. Enemy forces superior. Recommend total war protocols. We will delay as long as possible." As Huang left to send the message, Taeyang looked at the stars through the conference room window. Somewhere out there, the Velkari were celebrating their easy victory over ignorant aliens. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, growing fat on their arrogance. They were about to learn that humanity had not crawled up from the bottom of Earth's food chain by accepting subjugation. They were about to learn that humans were the species that hunted mammoths with sharpened sticks, that survived ice ages and plagues, that turned deserts into gardens through sheer stubborn will. The Velkari thought they had caught helpless prey. They had actually awakened something far more dangerous. They had given humanity a reason to bring fire to the stars. Taeyang smiled grimly. "Let's show them what happens when you corner a predator." They ruled the stars in arrogance, until humanity arrived in Fire Admiral Han Sora, stood in the war room deep beneath Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing every military asset humanity possessed. She was a woman who had earned her rank through 3 decades of service, fighting in conflicts from the Martian Independence War to the Belt Pirate suppression. Her silver hair was cut military short, and her dark eyes studied the tactical displays with the focus of a hunting hawk. "Quantum burst confirmed received from the Rising Dawn," reported a young officer. "Captain Li Taeyang requests authorization for Code Prometheus." Around the circular table, the faces of Earth's military council appeared as holographic projections. General Martinez from Luna Base, Admiral Okoro from the African Space Command, Director Takahashi from Intelligence, all wore the same grim expression. "How long until the Velkari can reach Earth?" asked Martinez. A scientist stepped forward. Kim Min-seok was barely 30 years old but had revolutionized human space travel with his quantum tunneling drive. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Based on the energy signatures Captain Lee sent us, their ships use conventional faster-than-light travel. If they send a fleet from where the Rising Dawn is positioned, they could reach Earth in approximately 8 days. "And our quantum tunneling drives?" Hansora asked. "Still experimental, but functional. We can move our fleet into position without them detecting us until we want to be detected." Kim Min-seok pulled up new displays. "More importantly, I've analyzed their shield technology from the scans. They're using a harmonized energy field that's extremely effective against plasma weapons and lasers." "But," Hansora prompted, hearing the unspoken word. "But it's weak against kinetic weapons, especially at relativistic speeds. They've optimized for fighting enemies who use energy weapons. We use railguns, missiles, and good old-fashioned bullets accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. Their shields aren't designed for that." Director Takahashi leaned forward. "Are we seriously considering declaring war on a galactic empire? They've been in space for 10,000 years. We've barely had FTL for 50. "They've declared war on us," Hansora said coldly. "The moment they demanded our surrender, they made this choice. Now we have to decide if we're going to die on our knees or die fighting. And maybe, just maybe, we don't die at all." She stood and walked around the holographic Earth, spinning slowly in the center of the room. "The Velkari made a mistake. They think we're just another primitive species they can bully into submission. They don't understand that humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being weak. We survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, plagues that killed half our population. We adapted. We learned. We fought. Code Prometheus calls for a preemptive strike," Martinez said slowly. "We hit them before they can organize a response." Hansora nodded. "We have 200 warships equipped with the quantum tunneling drive. We use them. We jump into Velkari space and hit their military installations hard. We show them that attacking Earth has a cost." "And the Rising Dawn?" Okoro asked. "Captain Lee knows his orders. He delays the Velkari fleet surrounding him as long as possible. He makes them think they have us trapped and scared. Meanwhile, we prepare Earth's defenses and launch our strike. If we're lucky, we can force them to negotiate before this turns into a war of extermination." The vote was unanimous. Code Prometheus was activated. 12 hours later, Captain Lee Taeyang watched the Velkari ships through his view screen and smiled. The aliens thought they had the Rising Dawn helpless. They didn't know that 60% of the ship's civilian sections were actually military installations behind false walls. "Lieutenant Kang Hyejin, are your pilots ready?" Taeyang asked. The young woman at the flight control station grinned. Kang was the best starfighter pilot Earth had ever produced. With reflexes so fast her scores were initially dismissed as computer errors. 30 fighters ready to launch, Captain. We've been ready for hours. Commander Yoon, tactical status?" Daeho pulled up the display. "The Velkari have 50 boarding shuttles approaching. They think they're going to just walk in and start taking prisoners. They have no idea what's waiting for them." Taeyang nodded. "Let them board. Spring the trap once they're committed." The Velkari shuttles docked with the Rising Dawn at multiple points. Airlock doors opened and the aliens came through in organized units. They were tall creatures armored in gleaming powered suits that probably cost more than a small city. They moved with the confidence of beings who had never lost a battle. They entered what appeared to be a civilian habitation area. Families should have been cowering here. Instead, they found empty rooms and an eerie silence. The false walls dropped away. Humanity's soldiers emerged from concealment with weapons raised. The Velkari had encountered species that resisted before, but nothing had prepared them for human close-quarters combat. These weren't ritualized battles with agreed-upon rules. This was brutal, efficient violence honed over millions of years of evolution on a death world where everything from insects to weather could kill you. Plasma bolts met explosive-tipped bullets. Powered armor met shaped charges and electromagnetic pulse grenades. The Velkari fought with technology. Humans fought with technology and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. One Velkari soldier found himself facing a human female barely half his size. He activated his energy blade and moved to strike. Certain of victory, she dodged with impossible speed. rolled between his legs and attached a magnetic mine to his armor's weak point at the hip joint. The explosion sent him crashing to the deck. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out. The Valkyrie boarding parties were slaughtered. Within 20 minutes, it was over. The aliens lay dead or captured, and the humans had retaken their ship. Taeyang walked through the corridors, stepping over alien bodies. Dr. Park was already examining the captured ones, trying to understand their biology. She looked up as he approached. "Captain, these beings have never faced anything like us. Their combat doctrine is all wrong. They expect enemies to surrender when the tactical situation becomes unfavorable. The concept of fighting to the death is alien to them." "Good," Taeyang said grimly. "Let's teach them something new." He returned to the bridge and opened a channel to the Valkyrie fleet. High Executor Velmuth's face appeared, his 4 eyes wide with shock. "You killed my soldiers," the alien said, as if he couldn't quite believe it. "You declared war on humanity," Taeyang replied. "Did you think we would just accept it? You offered us slavery or death. We choose neither. We choose war. You are insane. We have 7 ships to your 1. We have an empire of thousands of systems. You are 1 species on 1 planet. This is suicide." Taeyang smiled coldly. "Maybe, but we're going to make you pay for every inch. And if we die, we'll make sure everyone in this galaxy knows that the mighty Valkyrie can bleed." He cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Target their 2 closest ships. Fire everything." The Rising Dawn had been hiding its true capabilities. Now the hidden weapons ports opened. Railguns that could punch through small asteroids spoke with thunder. Missiles with nuclear warheads streaked across the void. And most devastating of all, the experimental quantum disruptor that Kim Min-sok had installed tore at the fabric of space itself. 2 Valkyrie cruisers exploded in brilliant fireballs. The remaining 5 ships scattered in panic, unable to comprehend that their primitive prey had just become the predator. 8 days later, the Valkyrie 4th Armada jumped into Earth's solar system. 400 massive warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, expecting to find a frightened planet ready to surrender. Instead, they found Admiral Han Sora's fleet waiting in perfect ambush formation. "All ships, this is Admiral Han. Remember, they think they're superior to us. They think this will be easy. Show them the price of arrogance. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth for the rising dawn for humanity. Fire at will!" 200 human warships opened fire simultaneously. Railgun rounds moving at relativistic speed slammed into Valkyrie shields that weren't designed to stop them. Missiles swarmed like angry hornets. Human ships moved in coordinated wolf packs using tactics the Valkyrie had never encountered. The Battle of Sol had begun. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not prey. Humanity was the species that climbed to the top of the food chain on one of the universe's most dangerous planets. And now that humanity had reached the stars, they had brought their fire with them. In his command chair, Admiral Han Sora watched the battle unfold and allowed herself a small smile. The Valkyrie had ruled in arrogance for 10,000 years. Today that rule ended. Today they learned what it meant to face a species that had survived by being tougher, meaner, and more stubborn than anything else in their environment. Today, they learned what it meant to face humanity. They ruled the stars in arrogance, until humanity arrived in fire. The Battle of Sol raged for 3 days and nights, though in the void of space, there was no difference between the two. Admiral Han Sora stood on the bridge of her flagship Indomitable, her uniform stained with sweat and her eyes red from lack of sleep. Around her, damage reports scrolled across screens in an endless stream of red warnings. "Orbital Station 7 is gone," reported her tactical officer, his voice hollow. The Valkyrie broke through the defensive screen. 2 million casualties estimated. Han Sora's jaw tightened, but she showed no other emotion. She couldn't afford to. Route additional fighters to cover Station 8. Pull the Beijing and the Moscow back to defensive positions around Luna. The view screen showed the chaos of the largest space battle in human history. Hundreds of ships from both sides twisted and turned through the black trading fire that lit up the darkness like deadly fireworks. Human ships fought with desperate courage, using tactics that would have been called insane by any military academy. Kamikaze runs, false retreats that led enemy ships into kill zones, using the moon itself as cover for ambush attacks. The Valkyrie had superior technology, but they fought according to rules and traditions that had served them for 10,000 years. They expected enemies to surrender when the tactical situation became hopeless. They expected rational behavior and calculated decisions. Humanity gave them chaos and fury instead. Captain Li Taeyang and the Rising Dawn arrived in the middle of the second day, having fought their way through 5 Valkyrie picket ships to reach home. His ship was battered and scarred, but still functional. He immediately joined the defensive formation around Earth. Captain Li reporting for duty, Admiral. His voice crackled over the communication channel. What are your orders? Good to have you home, Captain. Join defensive formation Delta and help cover the evacuation transports. We're moving non-essential civilians to the underground bunkers on Mars. Across the solar system, humanity's civilian population was being evacuated to whatever safe havens could be found. Bei Yuna, a civilian coordinator who had organized the evacuation of Seoul during the colony wars, now worked to save billions. She stood in the control center of the Mars transit station, watching transport ships arrive in an endless stream. We can't take any more, one of her assistants said near tears. We're at 300% capacity. Then we'll squeeze in more, Bei said firmly. Nobody gets left behind. Nobody. Back in Earth orbit, the tide of battle shifted hour by hour. The Valkyrie had numbers and power, but humans had something the aliens didn't understand. They had the absolute refusal to give up that came from being a species that had survived predators, plagues, and natural disasters for millions of years. Commander Yoon Daiho led a squadron of destroyers in a daring attack on a Valkyrie carrier. His ships dove straight into the enemy formation, weapons blazing. 2 of his ships were destroyed, but the carrier was crippled. As Daiho's ship pulled away, he sent a transmission to the Valkyrie commander. Tell your high executor that we're just getting started. Dr. Park Ji-won worked in a makeshift laboratory on the moon, examining captured Valkyrie soldiers and technology. She had made a discovery that chilled her blood. Admiral, you need to see this, she transmitted to Hansora. The holographic display showed brain scans of Valkyrie and human soldiers side by side. The Valkyrie brain is structured differently from ours. They're biologically optimized for stability, cooperation within strict hierarchies, and following established patterns. They're brilliant at maintaining civilization, but they're terrible at adaptation. Explain it simply, Doctor, Hansora said. Humans evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill us. We developed brains that are exceptional at pattern recognition, creative problem-solving, and rapid adaptation to new threats. The Valkyrie evolved on stable, peaceful worlds with few predators. They never needed those skills. In a fair fight with established rules, they'll win every time. But in chaos and total war where the rules don't matter, we have a biological advantage. Hansora nodded slowly. They've never faced anything like us because nothing like us has ever reached space before. Exactly. We're an evolutionary anomaly, a predator species that developed intelligence not to maintain peaceful civilization, but to survive in a hostile environment. And now we're applying that to warfare in ways they simply can't comprehend. On the 3rd day of battle, the Valkyrie 4th Armada made their final push. They concentrated all remaining forces on a direct assault on Earth itself. 200 massive warships pushed through the human defensive lines, taking terrible casualties but continuing forward with mechanical determination. They're breaking through, someone shouted on the Indomitable's bridge. Hansora stood firm. All remaining ships form up on my position. We're not letting them reach Earth. I don't care if we have to ram them. They do not pass. What followed was the most brutal close-range combat of the war. Ships fought at ranges where they could see each other's hull markings. Human crews fired every weapon they had, then used their ships as battering rams when the weapons ran dry. One destroyer captain, seeing his ship was finished, set his reactor to overload and crashed into a Valkyrie battleship, taking them both out in a massive explosion. Lieutenant Kang Hee-jin led the starfighter squadrons in a desperate charge against the Valkyrie flagship. Her squadron of 30 fighters faced defensive fire that would have made hell look peaceful. 27 of her pilots died in the approach, but she and her 2 surviving wingmates broke through and fired their missiles directly into the flagship's bridge. The Valkyrie flagship broke apart, and with it, the enemy fleet's coordination failed. Without their command ship, the aliens faltered. Their rigid command structure, so effective in normal battles, became a liability. They're retreating, the tactical officer shouted. The Valkyrie are breaking off. The 4th Armada withdrew, leaving behind nearly half their ships as flaming wreckage. Humanity had won, but the cost was devastating. Admiral Han Sora looked at the casualty reports and felt a weight settle on her shoulders that would never leave. 40% of Earth's fleet was destroyed. 5 orbital stations were gone. Millions dead. The moon's surface was scarred with impact craters where ships had crashed. Mars was overflowing with refugees. Earth itself had burn marks across 3 continents from orbital bombardment. But they had won. The mighty Velkari Imperium had been defeated by a single species defending their homeworld. On the Velkari homeworld, High Executor Velmuth watched the reports with growing horror. The 4th Armada destroyed, an entire fleet defeated by primitives. Impossible. And yet, it had happened. A younger Velkari officer named Commander Praxis stood before the council. High Executor, I formally request permission to speak. Speak, Velmuth said coldly. We underestimated the humans. They are not primitive. They are different. Their species evolved on what we would classify as a death world. Everything about them is optimized for survival and combat. When we offered them submission, we triggered their survival instincts. We made them see us as an existential threat. You suggest we should fear these creatures? Another council member asked with disdain. Praxis pulled up the battle recordings. Watch how they fight. They use kamikaze attacks. They ram our ships when their weapons fail. They fight past the point where any rational species would surrender. This is not courage, members of the council. This is their nature. They are predators. The council watched in silence as the recordings played. They saw human ships destroyed, only to have the survivors eject in escape pods and continue firing with hand weapons. They saw human soldiers fighting hand-to-hand against powered armor and winning through sheer ferocity. They saw tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. The Oracle Syndra, an ancient artificial intelligence that had guided the Velkari for thousands of years, spoke with a voice like crystal chimes. I have completed probability calculations. In a total war scenario against humanity, the Velkari Imperium has a 34% chance of victory. Achieving that victory would require the destruction of 60% of our military strength, and would leave us vulnerable to the subjugated species who serve us. 34%? Velmuth repeated, stunned. That's impossible. We control thousands of systems. They have one planet of predators who refuse to accept defeat, the Oracle replied. They will fight until extinction, and they will take us with them. Velmuth stood and slammed his hand on the table. Then we mobilize everything. Every ship, every weapon. We crush Earth before they can grow stronger. Prepare the Grand Armada. We will show these creatures what it means to challenge the Velkari. Commander Praxis bowed and left the chamber, but his mind was troubled. The High Executor was letting pride and fear cloud his judgment. The humans had proven they could fight. Sending more ships would just mean more death. Perhaps Praxis thought there was another way, but speaking such thoughts aloud would be treason. Far from the Velkari homeworld, in the outer territories of their empire, other species watched the news of the battle with growing interest. The humans had done what no one thought possible. They had made the Velkari bleed, and if the mighty could bleed, perhaps they could also fall. They ruled the stars in arrogance, until humanity arrived in Fire Captain. Shin Jaemin moved through the shadows of the Velkari communication hub like a ghost. Behind him, 6 members of Earth's elite special forces followed in perfect silence. They wore adaptive camouflage suits that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. Their mission was simple in concept, but nearly impossible in execution. Infiltrate the heart of the Velkari Imperium and destroy their central communication network. The stealth destroyer Shadow Strike had brought them here using quantum tunneling to bypass every detection system the aliens possessed. Now they were inside the most secure facility in Velkari space, surrounded by thousands of guards and automated defenses. Thermal signatures ahead, whispered one of the soldiers, a woman named Lee Suman. 4 guards, heavily armed. Shin made a hand signal. The team split up, moving around the guards using different routes. They couldn't risk raising an alarm, not yet. Not until they reached the core systems. Back on Earth, Admiral Han Sora coordinated the larger plan. While Shin's team worked in secret, she was preparing humanity's next move. The captured Velkari database that Shin had stolen on a previous mission had revealed something crucial. The Velkari ruled over 70 different species. Some had been enslaved for thousands of years. All of them hated their masters. Dr. Park Ji-won stood beside Han Sora in the command center, finalizing a message that would be broadcast across the galaxy. "Admiral, if we do this, there's no going back. We're essentially starting a galactic revolution. The Velkari started this when they tried to enslave us," Han Sora replied. "Now we're going to finish it. Is the message ready?" Park nodded and activated the holographic display. On it appeared footage from the Battle of Sol, showing human ships fighting impossible odds. Her voice, translated into 70 different languages, would accompany it. "To all species under Velkari rule, we are humanity. 40 days ago, the Velkari demanded our surrender and threatened to enslave us. We refused. They sent a fleet to crush us. We destroyed it. The tyrants told you they were invincible. They lied. We are proof they can be defeated. Join us, fight for your freedom. Together we can end their reign of arrogance." On the Krenathi homeworld deep in Velkari territory, a warrior named Velsara watched the message in secret. Her species had been conquered 3,000 years ago. They had been bred as soldiers to fight the Velkari's wars. She was tall and powerful, with 4 arms and natural armor plating that made her look like a walking tank. She watched the human ships fight and felt something she had never experienced before: hope. Within hours, she had contacted others who felt the same. Within days, she had an army. The Krenathi remembered freedom, passed down in stories from generation to generation. Now maybe they could reclaim it. Captain Shin and his team reached the communication hub's core. It was a massive chamber filled with quantum processors that coordinated faster-than-light communications across the entire Velkari Imperium. Destroying it wouldn't end the Empire, but it would blind them temporarily and create chaos. "Plant the charges," Shin ordered. "We have 10 minutes before the next security sweep." His team moved efficiently, placing fusion charges at key structural points. But as they worked, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. "We're discovered," Lee Suman shouted. "Doesn't matter," Shin replied calmly. "Charges are set. Everyone back to the extraction point. Move." They ran through corridors as blast doors began slamming shut. Velkari guards appeared from side passages, firing energy weapons that burned through walls. The human soldiers returned fire with projectile weapons, the old-fashioned bullets punching through armor that was designed to stop plasma. One of Shin's soldiers went down, hit by a lucky shot. Shin didn't hesitate. He scooped up the wounded man and kept running. Behind them, the fusion charges detonated in sequence. The explosion was visible from orbit. The communication hub collapsed into a crater half a mile wide. The Velkari Imperium was suddenly deaf and blind, unable to coordinate their forces across thousands of light years. That was when the rebellions began. On 70 worlds, enslaved species rose up against their masters. The Krenathi, the fierce warriors, attacked military installations with savage efficiency. Other species sabotaged factories, destroyed shipyards, and assassinated Velkari governors. It was coordinated chaos, impossible to suppress without communication. High Executor Velmuth stared at the reports flooding in through emergency channels and felt his carefully ordered world collapsing. How? How did this happen? Commander Praxis stood before him with the answer. The humans contacted the subjugated species. They inspired them to rebel. With our communications disrupted, we cannot coordinate a response. Then send the Grand Armada to crush these uprisings, Velmuth commanded. If we do that, Earth will have time to rebuild and fortify. We'll face the same problem again, only worse, Praxis argued. High Executor, we must face reality. The humans have changed everything. Our old ways of ruling won't work anymore. Silence. I will not hear defeatist talk. Velmuth's 4 eyes blazed with anger. I will personally lead a strike team to Earth. We will decapitate their leadership. Without their Admiral Han and their commanders, they will collapse. War Priest Thalnox stepped forward. He was a veteran of 1,000 battles. A Velkari who had dedicated his life to military service. High Executor, I volunteer to lead this mission. The humans must learn that their rebellion has consequences. 2 days later, Thalnox and an elite team of Velkari warriors infiltrated Earth using captured stealth technology. They landed in Seoul, where Earth's military command was coordinating the war effort from underground bunkers. Colonel Oh Subin was in charge of Earth's security forces. She was a compact woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her network of sensors detected the Velkari insertion immediately. We have enemy contacts in sectors 7 through 12. she reported to Admiral Han. "They're using stealth tech, but they're leaving heat signatures we can track." "Let them think they're undetected," Han Sora ordered. "Lead them into the trap." The Velkari moved through Seoul's streets invisible to normal sensors. They were confident in their superiority. They had trained for this kind of operation on dozens of worlds. Assassinating leadership was a standard tactic in their military doctrine. What they didn't expect was for Seoul's entire population to be tracking them. Every security camera, every civilian with a phone, every automated system was feeding data to Osubin's command center. The humans weren't just defending their leaders. They were hunting. The trap was sprung in the government district. Buildings that appeared empty suddenly came alive with weapons fire. Human soldiers emerged from hidden positions. The Velkari found themselves in a kill zone designed specifically for urban combat. War Priest Thalnox fought with the skill of centuries of experience. His powered armor deflected bullets and his energy weapons carved through walls. But for every position he took, humans appeared from another direction. They used the environment, collapsing buildings to block his escape routes and flooding tunnels he tried to use for cover. Captain Lee Taeyang led the ground forces personally. He had left his ship to join the defense of his homeworld, and now he faced the War Priest in the ruins of a government building. Thalnox was twice Taeyang's size, armored like a tank and armed with weapons that could level a city block. Taeyang had a rifle, a combat knife, and decades of experience fighting dirty. The battle was brutal and short. Taeyang used every trick he knew. He lured Thalnox into a section of building he had rigged with explosives. When the floor collapsed, the War Priest fell 3 stories into a basement that Taeyang had flooded with industrial adhesive. While Thalnox struggled in the trap, Taeyang dropped down and placed a shaped charge directly on the War Priest's armor seal. The explosion didn't kill Thalnox, but it cracked his armor. The proud warrior found himself helpless, staring up at a human who should have been easy prey. "You fought well," Taeyang said quietly, "but you made a mistake coming to our world. This is where we evolved. This is where we learned to hunt." Thalnox's breathing was labored. "We were wrong. The Oracle was right. You are not primitives. We are the fools. Tell your High Executor this war can end," Taeyang said. "Surrender. Face justice for what you've done, or die fighting a species that will never give up." "He will never surrender," Thalnox whispered. "Pride will destroy us all." The War Priest died there in the basement, and with him died the Velkari's hope of a quick victory. His apprentice, a young Velkari named Korthan, watched from hiding and then fled. He had seen something that terrified him more than death. Humans fighting on their home ground were unstoppable. Across the galaxy, the rebellions continued to spread. The Krenathi and their allies had captured 3 Velkari core worlds. Supply lines were cut. The mighty empire was tearing itself apart. Commander Praxis made a decision that would change everything. He used an encrypted channel to contact Admiral Han Sora directly. "Admiral, I am Commander Praxis of the Velkari fleet. I wish to discuss terms of peace, not surrender. Partnership, the old ways are dead. Together we can build something better." Han Sora looked at the transmission for a long moment. Then she replied, "I'm listening." They ruled the stars in arrogance, until humanity arrived in fire. The Grand Armada of the Velkari Imperium arrived at Earth's solar system like a storm of metal and fury. 15,000 warships representing the full military might of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10 millennia. High Executor Velmuth stood on the bridge of his command ship, all 4 eyes fixed on the blue-green planet ahead. "They will see our power and despair," he said to his officers. "Then they will surrender." But as the Armada moved into attack formation, they discovered something unexpected. Earth was not alone. Surrounding the planet were not just human ships, but vessels from dozens of different species. The Krenathi warrior fleet under Velsara's command, smaller contingents from the other liberated worlds, and most shocking of all, several dozen Velkari ships flying under Commander Praxis's banner of rebellion. Admiral Han Sora stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, which had been repaired and upgraded with captured Velkari technology. Captain Lee Taeyang commanded a battle group to her right. Lieutenant Kang Yejin led fighter squadrons that combined human pilots with alien allies who had learned human tactics. The solar system had been transformed into a fortress. Weeks of preparation had turned every moon, asteroid, and orbital platform into a weapon. Millions of autonomous minds drifted in carefully calculated patterns. Railgun batteries hidden on Luna's far side waited in ambush. The quantum tunneling drives let human ships appear and disappear like ghosts. "Open a channel to the Velkari fleet," Han Sora ordered. Velmuth's face appeared on screen, twisted with rage. "You have allied with our property. You have corrupted our own people. This is beyond war. This is an abomination." "High Executor," Han Sora said calmly. "I offer you one final chance. Surrender. Face trial for war crimes. Help us build a new galactic order where all species are equal. Or die here defending an empire built on slavery and arrogance. Never. The Velkari will never bow to primitives." Velmuth cut the transmission and ordered the attack. The final Battle of Sol began. It was the largest space battle in galactic history. 15,000 Velkari warships against 3,000 ships from the Allied forces. The numbers favored the Empire, but numbers weren't everything. The Velkari fleet advanced in their traditional formations, expecting the enemy to meet them in conventional battle. Instead, human tactics turned the battlefield into chaos. Ships appeared from nowhere using quantum tunneling. The mines activated, creating a deadly maze. Fighter squadrons led by Kang Hyojin struck at command ships, disrupting coordination. Most devastating of all was the cooperation between species. Krenathi warriors boarded enemy vessels in savage close combat assaults. Other species provided intelligence about Velkari weak points. Human engineers had studied every captured ship and weapon, finding vulnerabilities the arrogant Empire had never bothered to fix. Captain Li Taeyang led a daring assault on Velmuth's flagship. His battle group of 20 ships fought through a defensive screen of 200 vessels. They used the moon's gravity well to slingshot into attack position, appearing where the Velkari couldn't possibly predict. "All ships, concentrate fire on the flagship's shield generators," Taeyang ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." The battle raged for hours. The Velkari's technological advantage meant nothing when facing an enemy that refused to follow the rules. Human ships damaged beyond repair set their reactors to overload and crashed into enemy vessels. Allied species fought with a fury born of thousands of years of oppression, and the defecting Velkari under Praxis provided tactical intelligence that let the Allied forces anticipate enemy moves. Commander Praxis himself led the rebellion from within. He broadcast messages across the Velkari fleet. "The High Executor has led us to ruin. His pride will destroy us all. Stand down and join us in building a better future." Dozens of Velkari captains, seeing their fleet being torn apart, made the choice to defect. They turned their weapons on their former comrades. The Grand Armada, so confident in its invincibility, began to fracture. On the flagship, High Executor Velmuth watched his perfect empire collapse. Captured worlds in rebellion, his own people turning against him, and these humans, these impossible creatures from a death world, defeating the greatest fleet ever assembled. "No," he whispered. "This cannot be. We were chosen to rule. The galaxy needs order. We cannot allow chaos." His hands moved across controls, accessing systems that had been locked away for thousands of years. The Velkari had a final weapon, one they had never needed to use. A device that could destabilize a star, causing it to collapse and destroy entire solar systems. "If we cannot rule, then let there be nothing," Velmuth said. He activated the stellar collapse weapon, targeting Earth's sun. On the Indomitable, alarm screamed across every station. "Admiral?" Dr. Park Ji-won shouted from her science station. "The Velkari are doing something to the sun. Energy readings are going insane. If this continues, the sun will go nova in less than an hour." Han Sora felt ice form in her stomach. "Can we stop it?" "Not with our technology. We don't even understand how it works." Park's fingers flew across her console. "Wait, Commander Praxis is transmitting data. He has the technical specifications for the weapon." Engineer Kim Min-seok appeared on the communication channel from his laboratory on Luna. His face was pale but determined. "Admiral, I see it. The weapon uses quantum resonance to destabilize the star's core. But if we can generate a counter-resonance, we might be able to neutralize it." "Might?" Han Sora asked. "I'm a scientist, not a miracle worker," Kim replied with a weak smile. "But I've been studying Velkari technology for months." "Give me 30 minutes. You have 20, Han Sora said. "Taeyang, break through to that flagship. We need to buy Kim time." Captain Li Taeyang's battle group fought like demons possessed. They sacrificed ship after ship to punch through the defensive screen. Taeyang himself led a boarding party onto the Velkari flagship, fighting through corridors filled with the enemy. They reached the bridge to find Velmuth standing alone, his guards dead or fled. The High Executor looked at Taeyang with 4 eyes filled with madness and despair. "You've destroyed everything," Velmuth said. 10,000 years of civilization gone because you refused to accept your place." "We don't have places," Taeyang replied, weapon raised. "We have choices. And we chose freedom. Shut down the weapon. Never. If the Velkari fall, then let the galaxy fall with us. Let everyone learn the price of defying order." Commander Praxis burst onto the bridge with a squad of defecting Velkari soldiers. "High Executor, stand down! You're finished!" Velmuth laughed bitterly. "Traitor, you betray your own species for these animals." "I saved my species from its own arrogance," Praxis said. "The humans didn't destroy us. We destroyed ourselves with pride." On Luna, Kim Min-seok worked frantically, combining human quantum technology with the Velkari weapon specifications. Dr. Park guided him remotely, interpreting the alien science. With 5 minutes remaining before the sun's collapse became irreversible, Kim activated his counter-resonance device. The effect was immediate. Throughout the solar system, every sensor registered a massive quantum pulse. The stellar collapse weapon on Velmuth's flagship overloaded in a cascade of energy. But Kim had done something more. The pulse didn't just disable the weapon. It sent feedback through every Velkari ship still in the system. Across the Grand Armada, weapon systems went offline. Shields collapsed. The mighty fleet was suddenly helpless. "All Velkari vessels, this is Admiral Han Sora. Surrender now or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds. The response was immediate. Ship after ship lowered shields and powered down weapons. The Battle of Sol was over. High Executor Velmuth stared at the view screen showing his defeated fleet. Then he looked at Taeyang and Praxis. How did primitives defeat us?" "We're not primitives," Taeyang said quietly. "We're survivors. That's the difference. You built your empire on arrogance. We built our civilization on adaptation. When you pushed us, we pushed back harder. When you tried to break us, we became stronger. That's what happens when you threaten a species that evolved by being too stubborn to die." Velmuth collapsed into his command chair, broken. The Velkari Imperium, which had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, had fallen in less than 2 months. 6 months later, representatives from hundreds of species gathered aboard the rebuilt Rising Dawn for the signing of the Treaty of New Dawn. The Velkari Imperium was dissolved. In its place rose the Galactic Cooperative, a democratic federation where every species had equal representation. Captain Lee Taeyang was promoted to admiral and given command of the Cooperative's peacekeeping fleet. His first mission was protecting former Velkari worlds from revenge attacks, proving that the new order was about justice, not vengeance. Dr. Park Ji-won became the Cooperative's first chief science officer, working to share technology and knowledge among all species. She established the Academy of United Sciences where humans and aliens studied together. Commander Praxis faced trial for his actions during the war, but his testimony about Velkari crimes and his crucial role in stopping the stellar collapse weapon earned him pardon. He became an ambassador, working to help his species find a new role in the galaxy as partners rather than rulers.